Ladies and gentlemen, winning is a decision, not luck. That single truth can change the trajectory of a life. So many people go through life waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for the right opportunity, waiting for someone to recognize them, validate them, pick them, give them a break. But the people who win, the ones who rise, the ones who break through and create an extraordinary life, they don't wait. They decide. Decisions shape destiny. That isn't a cliche, it's reality. At any moment, you can make a decision that alters everything. A decision to stop tolerating what's holding you back. A decision to stop playing small. A decision to stop blaming your past or your pain and instead take total ownership of your future. Winners don't win because of their circumstances. They win because of their commitment. They don't sit around hoping they'll feel motivated. They don't rely on inspiration to show up at their door. They create the energy, they create the momentum, they choose to win, long before the results show up. Think about the people who succeed at the highest level. Do they have setbacks? Absolutely. Do they face rejection, failure, doubt, fear every single day? But they make the decision that no matter what happens, they're going to move forward, they're going to grow. They're going to adapt, and they're going to find a way. Luck is what people call it when they don't understand the discipline behind the outcome. It's easy to point at someone else's success and say, they got lucky. It's easy because it lets you off the hook. It gives you a reason not to try, not to push, not to demand more of yourself. But deep down, you know the truth. The people who win, who dominate, who live life at the highest level, they made a decision. They made it on a day when no one was watching, when they were tired, when they were scared, when quitting would have been easier, and they made it again the next day, and the next, over and over again. You don't drift into victory, you don't casually arrive at greatness, you don't stumble your way into mastery. Those things come to the people who made the decision that they were done waiting, done hoping, done just surviving. When you decide to win, it's not just a moment. It's a mindset. It's not a flash of motivation. It's a permanent change in identity. You don't just want to win, you are a winner, and every action, every habit, every thought gets filtered through that identity. It's not about how you feel. It's about what you've decided, because emotions are fleeting. Some days you'll wake up with energy. Some days you won't, but your decision doesn't waver. It's carved in stone. Winners understand that if they act only when they feel like it, they'll lose. So they build discipline. They commit to rituals. They design a system that keeps them aligned with their decision to win. So ask yourself, what decision have you been avoiding? What choice are you pretending is someone else's responsibility? What are you waiting for that you could claim right now by simply deciding? The moment you stop waiting and start owning, everything changes. Winning doesn't belong to the lucky. It belongs to the decided. Execution beats excuses every single time. You can have the best ideas, the boldest dreams, the clearest intentions, but if you don't do something, if you don't act, none of it matters. Excuses are easy. Excuses are seductive. They give you a reason to stay still, to protect your ego, to justify why things aren't where you want them to be. But execution is the great separator. It's what divides the people who talk from the people who create, the ones who wait from the ones who win. Everyone says they want success. Everyone says they want to be great, but wanting it doesn't make it happen. Thinking about it doesn't make it real. Talking about it might make you feel good for a moment, but it won't move you forward. Only execution does that. Only consistent, focused, relentless action will take your goals and make them your reality. It's not about how smart you are. It's not about how talented you are. It's about whether or not you're willing to follow through, to show up when it's uncomfortable, to push when it's inconvenient, to finish when every part of you wants to quit. Excuses whisper in your ear, you're tired, you don't have time, you don't know how, it's not the right moment. Execution doesn't care. Execution is blind to your reasons. It moves forward regardless. There's a myth that success is about having the perfect plan, but plans are useless if you don't execute them. How many people do you know who read the books, attend the seminars, watch the videos, but never change a thing? They're full of information but empty on transformation, because knowledge without action is worthless. Execution turns potential into power. You don't rise by explaining why you didn't. You rise by doing it anyway. By taking the first step, even if it's small, even if it's messy, even if it's uncertain. You take action not because it's comfortable, but because that's what winning requires. While others are still preparing, still waiting, still making lists and reorganizing their schedule, the executors are out there getting results. You can't execute and make excuses at the same time. It's one or the other. And your life reflects which one you've chosen. Look at your habits, your health, your bank account, your relationships. They are all a result of execution or the lack of it. That's the truth most people avoid. They blame the environment, the people around them, the timing, their past. But the mirror doesn't lie. If you're not where you want to be, it's not because you lacked opportunity. It's because you didn't follow through. High performers don't make decisions based on how they feel. They base them on who they are. They show up when it's raining, when it's late, when it's boring, when it's hard. Because they understand that consistent execution builds momentum, and momentum builds mastery. It's not about perfection. It's about showing up again and again and again until what you once struggled with becomes second nature. Execution demands sacrifice. It demands that you stop being addicted to comfort, to convenience, to the illusion of safety. It demands that you let go of your excuses and trade them for effort. That you stop trying to feel ready and start acting ready. Winners don't wait for motivation. They generate it by moving, by doing, by building proof through results. Action feeds belief. Execution fuels confidence. Every time you show up, you're casting a vote for the kind of person you are, and that vote counts. Comfort is the enemy of growth. It's the silent killer of dreams, the subtle trap that lulls you into mediocrity. Comfort feels good in the moment. It's safe, it's predictable, it doesn't ask much of you. But that same comfort over time will rob you of everything you're capable of becoming. Growth only lives in one place, the zone of discomfort. The space where you're uncertain, challenged, stretched beyond what feels normal. That's where transformation happens. When you live in comfort, you repeat. You do the same things, think the same thoughts, operate at the same level. And if nothing changes, nothing changes. Comfort keeps you from asking hard questions. It keeps you from making bold moves. It whispers to you that you're doing enough, even when deep down you know you're playing small. It convinces you that you have time, that you can wait, that someday you'll get around to doing the thing that actually matters, and days turn into years. The truth is, anything meaningful, anything worth building, worth becoming, worth fighting for requires you to leave what's comfortable. It demands risk. It demands you expose yourself to potential failure, rejection, criticism, and fear. That's the price of greatness. That's the price of real progress. The most successful people you admire didn't get there by doing what felt good. They got there by consistently doing what was necessary. Often, that meant stepping into situations that were painful, unfamiliar, and intimidating. Comfort zones are designed to protect you, but that protection comes at the cost of growth. It keeps you from seeing what you're truly made of. You can't develop grit, resilience, or creativity inside a space that never challenges you. Pressure creates diamonds. Stress, applied correctly, builds strength. Your greatest potential lives on the other side of resistance. And you only tap into it when you stop seeking comfort and start seeking challenge. The body, the mind, the spirit, they all grow under resistance. If you want to build muscle, you lift heavier. If you want to expand your mindset, you expose yourself to ideas that challenge your beliefs. If you want to elevate your life, you do things that scare you. You step into conversations that are uncomfortable. You take the risk you've been avoiding. You make the move that forces you to evolve. That's where the edge is. That's where progress is made. Most people never even scratch the surface of their potential because they spend their lives trying to avoid discomfort. They avoid difficult conversations, they avoid failure, they avoid effort, and in doing so, they avoid themselves. They never meet the version of themselves that only shows up when things get hard. They miss the breakthroughs that come from the breakdowns. They stay safe, but they stay small. Every time you choose comfort, you reinforce the identity of someone who stays the same. Every time you choose discomfort, you vote for the person you are becoming. That's how confidence is built. That's how identity is shaped. Not by what you say, but by what you do when it gets uncomfortable. Growth requires you to be intentional. It requires you to feel the fear, the tension, the uncertainty, and move forward anyway. That's not weakness. That's strength. That's courage. The challenge is to wake up every day and ask yourself, where am I avoiding discomfort? Because that's the place where you've stopped growing. That's the place where you've decided the illusion of ease is more valuable than the truth of your potential. But potential doesn't live in ease. It lives in effort, in sweat, in struggle. It lives in doing what most won't. The pain of discipline will always cost less than the pain of regret. Raise your standards or live in regret. That's the choice every person makes, whether consciously or not. Your standards are the invisible force that shapes your life. They dictate what you tolerate, what you expect of yourself, what you're willing to pursue, and what you're willing to walk away from. If you want to create real change, if you want to achieve something extraordinary, you have to raise your standards, because your current standards have created your current reality. People often think they need to change their goals to change their life. But goals are just outcomes. Standards are the foundation. If you raise your standards, your goals start to match. It's not about hoping for better, it's about expecting better, demanding better. When you truly raise your standards, it's no longer a wish or a preference. It becomes a must, and the moment something becomes a must, you'll do whatever it takes to make it happen. Look around at any area of your life, your health, your income, your relationships, your habits. They're all reflections of the standards you've set. If your standard is to just get by, that's exactly what you'll get. If your standard is to be good enough, that's where you'll stay. But if you raise the bar, if you decide that good isn't good enough, that you're not going to tolerate average anymore, everything starts to shift. Because your standards drive your behavior, and your behavior creates your results. It's not enough to say you want more. Everyone wants more. The question is, what are you no longer willing to tolerate? That's where real change begins. Maybe it's the way you've been showing up. Maybe it's the excuses you've been making. Maybe it's the people you've allowed to influence you. When you raise your standards, you stop settling. You stop accepting less than what you know you're capable of. You stop bending to convenience and start aligning with your values. Raising your standards is about identity. It's about deciding who you are and what kind of life that version of you demands. The person with high standards doesn't wait for permission. They don't complain when things are hard. They don't shrink when things get uncomfortable. They rise to meet the challenge. They follow through when others quit. They refuse to negotiate with mediocrity. Regret is what happens when you know you were capable of more, but you didn't raise your standards high enough to demand it from yourself. It's not the failure that hurts the most. It's the knowing that you could have done more, been more, achieved more, if only you had drawn the line higher. Regret comes from choosing comfort over growth, fear over faith, excuses over effort. It builds slowly, quietly, day by day, until one day you realize you traded your potential for temporary ease. People with unshakable standards don't live that way. They don't tolerate inconsistency in their effort. They don't allow negative self-talk to control their mindset. They don't drift through life hoping things will change. They take control. They design their day. They commit to excellence, not once in a while, but as a lifestyle. Because to them, excellence isn't an achievement, it's a standard. You raise your standards by raising your expectations and then backing those expectations with action. You stop waiting for things to get easier. You stop comparing yourself to others. You stop hoping that someday you'll just figure it out. You take responsibility. You commit to growth. You decide that who you are is defined not by what happens to you, but by what you demand from yourself in every situation. That's the turning point. That's when you stop settling and start building a life that reflects your highest self. Fear is fuel. Most people see fear as a stop sign, a warning, something to avoid at all costs. But the truth is, fear is not your enemy. It's your compass. It's your signal. It shows you where you need to go, not where you should retreat. The greatest growth always lies just beyond the edge of fear. When you stop running from it and start using it, everything begins to shift. Fear reveals your limits, not to hold you back, but to show you where to break through. It tells you where you've built a wall, and walls are meant to be torn down. Fear is only dangerous when you give it control. Left unchecked, it will paralyze you. It will convince you that staying small is safer than taking a risk. But when you face it directly, when you use it as energy, it becomes one of your greatest weapons. The goal is not to be fearless. The goal is to do it anyway, with the fear, through the fear, despite the fear. High performers don't lack fear. They've just learned how to interpret it. When they feel fear, they lean in. They know that something valuable lies behind it. Maybe it's a bold decision, a tough conversation, a leap into the unknown. They understand that fear points toward possibility. If it didn't matter, if it didn't stretch you, you wouldn't feel fear. It only shows up when something important is on the line. Fear is energy. It's raw, intense, and it demands direction. Most people direct that energy toward avoidance, toward excuses, toward comfort. But if you channel it into movement, into action, it becomes fuel. It sharpens your focus. It raises your intensity. It reminds you that you're alive, that you're on the edge of something real. The problem isn't fear. The problem is your response to it. You either use it or it uses you. The people who win in life are the ones who take fear and convert it into forward momentum. They take the trembling hand and make the call. They take the nervous heart and step onto the stage. They take the uncertain mind and move forward anyway, because they know that fear doesn't mean stop, it means pay attention. It means rise up. It means step in. Your fear highlights the exact area where you've got room to expand. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else matters more. When your mission is bigger than your fear, the fear loses its grip. When your purpose is stronger than your doubt, the doubt fades. That's why clarity matters. That's why vision matters. When you know who you are and why you're doing it, fear becomes part of the process, not a reason to quit. You can't numb fear without numbing your drive. You can't mute your emotions without muting your passion. Too many people try to silence fear instead of understanding it. But fear has a voice because it has a message. Sometimes the message is simple. You're about to grow. And growth always demands discomfort. Fear is often a sign you're no longer playing small, that you're stretching into something unfamiliar and powerful. Every time you walk through fear, you prove to yourself that you're capable of more than you thought. You rewire your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who hesitates and start believing in the version of you that takes bold action. Each step into fear becomes a vote for your potential, and the more you vote, the stronger that identity becomes. Fear becomes a tool instead of a threat, a guide instead of a guardrail. It's not about avoiding it. It's about owning it and turning it into momentum. Your dreams are non-negotiable. That means they are not up for debate, not open to compromise, and not something you put on hold until the timing feels right. They are your responsibility, your mission, your obligation to yourself and to the world. Too many people treat their dreams like options instead of commitments. They pursue them when it's easy, when it's convenient, when everything lines up perfectly. But if your dream truly matters, you don't wait for ideal conditions, you create them. A dream that's negotiable is a dream that will die, because life will test you. It will throw resistance, setbacks, distractions, and doubt. And if you haven't decided that your dream is non-negotiable, you'll fold. You'll justify quitting, you'll rationalize delay, you'll settle. But if you've drawn the line in the sand, if you've committed at a core level that this is happening no matter what, then you will find a way. That internal shift is the difference between a wish and a vision. It's the difference between trying and deciding. Non-negotiable dreams create clarity. When you know something is not optional, your energy changes. Your standards rise. You stop playing around. You start protecting your focus. You start saying no to anything that pulls you off course, because you understand that the dream isn't going to hand itself to you. It's going to ask for sacrifice. It's going to ask you to trade comfort for commitment, distraction for discipline, and fear for faith. And when your dream is non-negotiable, those trades become non-issues. People often think they need more time, more money, more support. But what they really need is a deeper decision, a real commitment, because when you commit at the highest level, you become resourceful, you find a way, you stop saying, "I can't," and start asking, "How can I?" You stop looking for excuses and start looking for solutions. You stop needing external motivation and start generating internal fire. The world makes room for the person who refuses to be denied, not because they're lucky or special, but because they show up differently. They show up with conviction. They show up ready to go through whatever is required to bring their dream to life. That kind of presence is powerful. That kind of certainty moves people, opens doors, creates momentum. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. When your vision is anchored to your identity, and that identity is rooted in unshakable belief, you become unstoppable. Every time you treat your dream like a backup plan, you reinforce the belief that it's not real, not important, not possible. And beliefs drive behavior. If you don't believe it's non-negotiable, your actions will always reflect that. You'll procrastinate, you'll self-sabotage, you'll coast. But when you flip that switch, when you make the decision that this dream must happen, your behavior begins to align. You become the kind of person who follows through, who takes the hits and keeps going, who adapts when things fall apart. Your dream chose you for a reason. It's not random. It's not accidental. It's embedded in you because you're the one meant to bring it to life. But dreams don't become real through hope. They become real through work, through sacrifice, through relentless execution. The process won't always be pretty. It won't always be fast. But if it's non-negotiable, you won't stop. You'll course correct, you'll evolve, you'll rise, but you won't quit. You don't negotiate with purpose. You don't negotiate with your calling. You rise to meet it, fully and completely, until the dream is no longer a vision, but a reality you've built with your own hands. Discipline creates freedom. It sounds like a contradiction, but it's one of the most powerful truths you can internalize. Most people chase freedom by avoiding structure. They think discipline means restriction, rules, pressure. But the exact opposite is true. Discipline is the path to power. It's the system that allows you to operate with clarity, focus, and strength. Without discipline, you're a slave to your impulses. You're at the mercy of mood, emotion, distraction, and circumstance. But with discipline, you reclaim control. You become the architect of your life. Discipline isn't about punishment. It's about purpose. It's about aligning your daily decisions with your highest goals. It's about choosing long-term fulfillment over short-term gratification. It's about training yourself to follow through when motivation disappears. Motivation gets you started. Discipline keeps you going. It's the bridge between intention and execution. You can have all the ambition in the world, but if you don't have the discipline to act consistently, that ambition will fade into frustration. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build trust. You shape your identity. You become someone who follows through, who does what's necessary even when it's hard, and that builds momentum. That momentum turns into confidence. Confidence leads to action, and action leads to results. But it all starts with discipline, the decision to show up, to do the work, to push through resistance instead of giving in to it. Freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you want, whenever you want. That kind of freedom leads to chaos. It leads to scattered focus, lost time, and wasted potential. True freedom comes when you've developed the inner strength to manage your time, your energy, your mind. When you can tell yourself no, you gain the power to say yes to the things that truly matter. Discipline gives you space to create, to perform, to grow. It gives you the edge when everyone else is making excuses. People talk about wanting balance, but what they really need is alignment. Discipline creates alignment. It keeps your actions connected to your values, your habits connected to your vision. It forces you to be intentional instead of reactive. Without discipline, your day owns you. With discipline, you own your day. And when you own your day, you start owning your life. There's nothing glamorous about discipline. It's not flashy. It doesn't always feel good. It's early mornings, hard choices, and repeated effort when no one's watching. But that's where winners are made, in the reps that no one sees, in the sacrifices no one claps for, in the standards you uphold when no one's holding you accountable. That kind of discipline builds character, and character builds legacy. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And discipline is the foundation of your system. It's what turns ambition into a lifestyle. It's what allows you to face resistance and still make progress. It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. Missing a day won't ruin you. Quitting the standard will. Discipline doesn't demand that you never fall. It demands that you always get back up. You want to be free, be disciplined. You want options, opportunities, impact. Build discipline because it will separate you from the average. It will elevate your mindset. It will give you the strength to keep going when others fold. Success doesn't reward the most talented. It rewards the most disciplined, the ones who do the work when no one's watching, the ones who make progress a habit, the ones who have made the decision that their vision matters more than their excuses. The mind must be trained. Just like the body, the mind doesn't grow stronger on its own. It doesn't become sharper, clearer, or more resilient by accident. It has to be challenged, conditioned, and pushed beyond its comfort zone. Most people spend their entire lives training their bodies to perform, their careers to progress, but they never learn how to command their own thoughts. They live on autopilot, reacting instead of directing, surviving instead of thriving. But if you want to win, you have to take control of your mind, because your thoughts shape your reality more than anything else. The quality of your life is the quality of your mind. Every action, every emotion, every decision starts with a thought. If you let your mind run wild, it will pull you in every direction. It will focus on fear, on doubt, on what's missing, on what could go wrong. But when you train it, when you take command, you create focus, clarity, and power. A trained mind doesn't chase distractions. It doesn't fold under pressure. It knows how to redirect, how to refocus, how to lock in on what matters and block out what doesn't. Mental strength isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. And just like building muscle, it takes repetition, consistency, and resistance. You have to challenge the negative thoughts. You have to reframe the story you're telling yourself. You have to stop feeding your fears and start feeding your purpose. A weak mind believes everything it thinks. A trained mind questions, filters, and chooses the thoughts that serve its mission. That's discipline. That's leadership. That's power. Training your mind means becoming aware. Awareness is the first step to mastery. You can't change what you're not aware of. Start by watching your internal dialogue. Listen to how you talk to yourself when you're tired, when you're stressed, when you fail. If the voice in your head is tearing you down, you've got to rewrite the script. Replace it with truth, with strength, with belief. Because if your mind is working against you, it doesn't matter how hard you work. There will always be resistance. The trained mind is proactive, not reactive. It prepares, it plans, it sets the tone. It doesn't wait for motivation. It creates it. It doesn't wait for confidence. It builds it through repetition and action. Confidence isn't something you wait to feel. It's something you generate by doing the work over and over again until the mind believes it's inevitable. That kind of belief doesn't come from talent. It comes from training. Training your mind also means feeding it. What you read, watch, listen to, it all matters. Your input creates your output. If you constantly consume negativity, chaos, drama, your mind becomes chaotic. But if you fuel it with truth, growth, wisdom, and clarity, it becomes your strongest ally. Be intentional with what you allow into your mental space. Protect your focus like your future depends on it, because it does. When adversity hits, when the pressure is on, when things don't go as planned, the trained mind doesn't panic. It doesn't spiral, it recalibrates, it adjusts. It finds the lesson, the leverage, the way forward. That's why mental training matters, because life will test you. It's not a matter of if, but when. And when it does, your preparation will determine your outcome. You don't rise to the challenge. You fall to the level of your preparation. If your mind isn't ready, you'll crack. But if it's trained, you'll rise, you'll execute, you'll win. The mind is the master key. Train it, and everything else becomes possible. Success becomes repeatable. Progress becomes automatic. Peace becomes a decision, not a condition, and work harder. It needs more people who can think better, clearer, and stronger under pressure.